Today on Stormwatch, October is Polish History Month, and to celebrate, MATC's West Dallas campus invited the Serena Polish Folk Dance Ensemble to perform some traditional Polish dances for their lunchtime crowd. Actor Kurtwood Smith campaigns for Obama at MATC's downtown campus.
The world that I lived in, the world I want to live in the rest of my life, the world I want to leave for my kids and my grandkids, and I want to see it to be a world that has health care.
Welcome to Stormwatch. I'm your host, Joe Pfaff. We have a very special guest with us today, George Baker. A student at MATC, he is here with us today to answer a few questions regarding voting. Thank you for joining us, George.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Along with the election comes politics, political rallies. This segment is a rally held at MATC.
Next week's election has the campus buzzing about politics. 2 weeks ago, Craig Robinson came to rally Obama supporters.
You're getting pissed off a little bit about what you're reading and you're listening to Fox and CNN. Don't worry. Relax. They're enjoying what they're doing because they're doing the most and the best for the most people, and they love that feeling.
Robinson encouraged Obama supporters to keep up the fight.
Don't be afraid to have that discussion because most of the folks on the other side, I got to give it to them, they're reasonable. They just don't know. They don't know, and we have to enlighten them.
There is a lot at stake in next week's election.
Being an openly gay American, it's very important to me that I endorse a president that has endorsed marriage equality.
Barack Obama gets elected, you get to stay in your parents' health care till you pay that off. Women will be able to have access to every form of protection they deserve. They will control their bodies. If Mitt Romney gets elected, that will be lost. A lot is on the line.
Undecided voters are especially important in this election.
Number of people that haven't made up their minds. And if you can just get those people to think about it, not even to decide, but to think about it, the odds are in our favor that they will vote for Barack Obama.
Smith has personal reasons for supporting the president.
The world that I lived in, the world I want to live in the rest of my life, the world I want to leave for my kids and my grandkids, and I want to see it to be a world that has health care.
Robinson believes strongly in following the president's leadership.
Because as RT said, we're in the lifeboat on the way to the shore, and we want to get to the shore. And even if I wasn't related to him, I know which guy is going to get me to the shore. I know which guy is going to get me to the shore. And
rallies are filled with citizens passionate about getting out and voting. But where do we need to vote? What do we need to know about voting, George?
First of all, you do need to know where to vote, and right now you can vote downtown Milwaukee at the Zeidler building. It's right next to City Hall, and you can early vote. If you aren't registered to vote, you can register there as well, and you can beat the mad rush that happens on November 6th.
What are the advantages about registering early other than just beating the mad rush?
If you register early, if you fill out your voter registration card that you usually get in the mail, you can bypass the line as you go into a polling place. They already have your information, so they just give you your ticket and you go right to the poll.
And then where do you get an ID from? What do you need for an ID?
You do not need an ID to show your ID when you vote. That is not the current law. That was being kicked around earlier this year, but you can just show up. If you are a registered voter, you just say your name, they ask your name, your address, they check your polling place, and they make sure that you're in the right place, and they give you your ballot. If you need to register, you have to bring a proof of residency, like a utility bill, when you register to vote.
That's really interesting. But let's take a break here and see what MATC has to offer its students. On October 2nd, the STD clinic held an event focusing on getting information to students about their clinic, what the Student Legal Clinic does for students,
The Student
and
Legal
how
Clinic
it gets
had an STD event on October 2nd in the S building on the second floor. Bill Burrosen is a worker at the Milwaukee Health Department.
Free testing either for chlamydia or gonorrhea. We do that about 4 times a year. And then on 2 other big days, usually around World AIDS Day, we'll bring community partners in also to offer HIV testing.
Student life focuses on everything that happens outside the classroom. We understand that students come to school to learn, to get education, but there's a lot of educational opportunities that occur prior to coming to class. So what we try to do is give those students the experience and exposure to other things they can learn. In most cases, they're free.
The big thing is a lot of students don't realize that they might have an STD. There are 23 different STDs, and 21 of them have periods where there's no signs and symptoms. So it's really important for anyone who's sexually active, who's had unprotected sex, to get screened. Once they are screened, if the test comes back positive, the Milwaukee Health Department will follow up with them and make sure that they get adequate treatment and make sure that they're getting to care.
Honya is a student worker at the Student Legal Clinic.
It was part of the work-study program. I was told by Miss Joanne Washington to talk to Mary O'Leary.
We have the blood drive. We have special events for students for entertainment like Fright Fest. We just had a boat cruise just recently. In fact, this coming weekend we have a weekend retreat with about 60 students to help them develop some leadership skills and become leaders in their organization. So student life really looks at trying to put on events that can get students involved in not just the academics of the college, but also their well-being as a student.
I needed some legal advice with Food Share, which is something that we do offer other students. Information, we're more like an informational referral kind of office. And not to mention, you know, it's part of school, so giving back and working at the same time.
Many students that come from outside the county area that needs housing, and UWM has some housing space available. So we thought it would be a nice connection to have our students reside in UW Residence Hall, especially if they're going to be potentially transfer students from a 2-year to a 4-year school.
Preference on individuals, you know, how devoted they are to the position that they are involved in. Not only that, it gives you opportunity to advance. So right now I'm doing legal, but I had an opportunity to work with the Times as well through the program.
Any testing that is done falls under the HIPAA regulation, so it can't be released to anyone without the student's authorization. So everything that we do is completely confidential and strictly confidential. And it doesn't go into a student's health record.
Mary or Larry, she's in the main building, room 346, and they can come during the week, and someone will be there to help them. If it's not her, it's myself.
Sometimes it's difficult to get into a clinic. It could take, a few hours sometime, and a student doesn't have time to do that often. So I think it's a nice service that MATC collaborates with the Milwaukee Health Department, and we're able to bring the service.
If you missed this past event on October 2nd, there's another free testing event held on December 3rd on the second floor of the S building.
It's great to hear that MATC is looking out for its students. But speaking about that, you were mentioning to me before how MATC blocked the voter registration law.
Well, we didn't block. We were instrumental when we went to argue our own ID, why it couldn't be used as real ID, it being a student ID. And we fought hard to make it recognized so. But in doing so, we were instrumental in helping stop the voter, it being required in the state of Wisconsin that you have to have an ID to vote.
And then for a legitimate ID that you need a student ID or a voter ID at the DMV?
The voter ID at the DMV will work. Those are still free. You need a student ID for MATC. A current student MATC ID will work. And, of course, your driver's license or state ID.
Mm-hmm. What are some factors that would block someone from voting in this election this year?
If you are a felon, you will not be able to vote. Depending on your felony and if you're on still on probation or parole. Voting in more than one location.
Voter fraud.
Voter fraud. Other than that, with some groups of citizens like the elderly, they might have transportation issues, and they can just call certain nonprofit organizations throughout the city to get transportation provided for them.
And that's where this controversy started with the whole voter registration fraud idea, that people would not necessarily they can get at it, but it's just the process of getting at it, and not necessarily they can have it.
Right, right.
So, if health and body interest you, the nursing program at MATC would be a great program to enter. Here's a glimpse of what students are offered.
And when you're going to break the ampule, you're going to break it away from you with your thumb. Okay.
We visited the nursing program where we sat down with Joan Ewig to see what the nursing students are learning and what they enjoy doing.
The students love the hands-on. That's always the part that they like the best. One of the biggest roles that I have is working with students in the lab. And working in the lab, we practice all of the skills. And so they practice injections, and they practice dressing wounds, and they practice giving CPR to the patients. At a technical school, our goal is to prepare bedside practitioners. And so I think that our philosophy causes us to want to be more in settings where students can actually be practicing. And so compared to maybe a bachelor's program, which would have more theory and research, our program is more focused on hands-on working with patients in hospitals settings, nursing home settings, acute care settings, long-term care, that kind of thing. And so the accolades and the praises that we get in the community is that our students have more hands-on than some of the other schools and some of the other programs.
Joan told us about some of the new and exciting tools that the nursing program is using to teach their students.
Well, the newest part of the nursing program is simulation. And simulation is when we get models that are interactive. Those models can talk, they have a heartbeat, they cry. So the students can interact with the models in a way that simulates working with human beings, and if they have to do things that are a little bit dangerous or tricky, they can do those things on a model before they have to work in the hospital setting with human beings.
Joan explained to us what makes MATC's nursing program unique from other programs.
Associate level, but our program is kind of unique. All of the associate degree programs in the state of Wisconsin are connected. We all have the same curriculum, and it's called stair-step curriculum. And I really think it's kind of a unique idea. What we do is the first year of the program is the students are able to get all of the coursework for becoming an LPN. So if they pass just the first year and they go for licensure, they can become an LPN, 1-year nurse. And then if they continue on to the second year, then they become an associate degree nurse, and then they have to sit for a second exam to become an RN.
This has been Adam Weiner for Stormwatch.
Getting back to the voter information, after we found out where to vote, the next question is what we need to bring with us to vote. Now we talked a little about just a proof of location and stuff like that.
Right, you would need to bring your utility bill if you're non-registered. You know, your ID, your utility bill to say, hey, this is who I am, this is where I live. But if you're already registered, you just need to bring yourself. And they ask you your name and your address, you give it to them, and they give you your ballot right there.
Does stuff like that relate to like absentee ballots or stuff like that?
Absentee ballots are a little different. Usually absentee ballots are sent to your house. With the early voter registration that's going on right now, the early vote drive, you're actually voting with an absentee ballot because you're not voting next week. On election day, your votes will still be counted, but they'll be counted in absentee ballot form because you voted early. So it's the same thing. They'll send, if you register and you check the box absentee ballot, they'll send it right to your house. So,
well, maybe you can take that absentee ballot and see the Sarah Polish Dance Assembly put out by a lunchtime performance for some MATC West Dallas students.
October is Polish History Month, and to celebrate, MATC's West Dallas campus invited the Serena Polish Folk Dance Ensemble to perform some traditional Polish dances for the lunchtime crowd. Serena's president, Glenn Ramsky, tells us the importance of demonstrations like this one.
People who aren't necessarily Polish get to learn a little bit about Poland, a little bit about what the country is about. They get a little bit of a flavor of the people. Dancing is a community event. It brings people together. And in our case, it brings all of us together. Obviously, we have a wonderful time doing it. And for those of us who are Polish, it's a way of maintaining a connection with our ancestors.
Dwayne Tomka, Serena's own certified Polish dance choreographer, speaks about the dances they performed.
Today we danced three separate dances from Poland. Two of the dances are regional dances, so they're dances from villages. The two that we did today were from southern Poland. And then we did also one national dance. There's 5 national dances.
5 national dances?
We've got 5 of them. So in addition to the Krakowiak, which is what we performed today, there's also the Kujawiak, the Oberek, the Polonaise, and the Mazur. And they're national dances because there's a lot of history, and they're also very old dances as well.
Not only are there 5 national dances, but each dance has its own costume.
Some are similar, but each village in Poland tries to separate itself with a little embellishment on the costume. I'm wearing the national dance of, or the national costume, Krakowiak it's called, so it's one of the 5 national costumes and dances of Poland.
I am wearing a costume from the region of Nowy Sącz. It's in southern Poland. All the costumes that we have are purchased in Poland, are made in Poland. The people use a lot of the inspiration that they find around them, whether it be the animals, the topography, the flowers, and they incorporate all of that into their costumes.
In addition to this dance demonstration, MATC's West Dallas campus plans on doing several more ethnic dance demonstrations throughout the year.
If you're interested in checking out some of those demonstrations, the next one is American Indian Dance Demonstration taking place on November 15th. If you'd like to hunt like a native, the following demonstration teaches you how to construct your very own hunting arrow.
Hunting season in full effect. Let's take a moment to learn the proper way to make your own arrows. These particular arrows can be used with a longbow or a recurve bow. The first step is a spine test. By hanging a 2.5 pound weight on the center of the arrow, you can make sure it isn't too stiff or limber. You then have to weigh the arrows. For accuracy, all of your arrows should be within 20 grains of each other, plus or minus 10 grains. The next step is very important to do correctly. You have to taper one end of the shaft to a 5-degree taper for the broadhead. To do this, you place one end of the arrow into a taper tool and twist like a pencil sharpener. Seeing as how the broadhead is usually the most expensive part of the arrow, you don't want it to fall off when you shoot. The next step is also very important. Before you can apply the knock, you have to taper the other end of the shaft at a 15-degree angle. The knock is the forked piece of plastic that holds the arrow to the string of the bow. Next, you want to dip your arrow in a tube of paint. This is called the crown dip. The paint can be any color and you can cover as much of the arrow as you want. This step is purely cosmetic. Next, you have to seal the arrow. You dip the entire shaft in polyurethane and let it dry for 2 days. This is to protect the arrow from the environment. Cresting is another step that is strictly cosmetic, but it gives your arrow some character. You want to pick any color paint you want, but generally you'd like to pick something that goes well with your crown paint. First, you place the arrow in the cresting machine. When you turn it on, the machine spins the shaft around at a rapid speed. Then you can apply the paint in any pattern you wish. After cresting your arrow, you want to dip the entire arrow in polyurethane one more time to protect the crest. After letting it dry for 2 days, you are ready for the feathers. When cutting your feathers, you can cut them to your desired length. These feathers are turkey feathers and are being cut to a length of 5.5 inches. Next, you have to glue the feathers to the shaft. You want to place your feather in the clamp and apply your glue to the quill of the feather. You want to allow 15 to 20 minutes of dry time for each feather before applying the next. To burn your feathers, you need a special burning tool. The wire on the tool can be bent to your desired feather shape. When you reach the shape you like, turn on the burner, put the arrow in the designated hole, and turn. Your feathers will be perfect. The last step is applying your broadhead. To do so, you want a mixture of 2-part epoxy or hot melt. Rub the tip in the epoxy and then put the broadhead on. Be sure to twist while you do it. That ensures a snug fit. There you have it. Your arrows are all done and you're ready to go practice. Have fun, but always remember to be safe.
To make all your own arrow, all the necessary tools can be found at your local archery show. Well, thank you for being here, George, and thank you for showing us what we all need to do to vote this November.
No, thank you for having me.
Any last words that you would like to say to the voters?
I just would urge you to go out and vote.
Good enough. Well, the MATC Times does a lot of covering in the community. Let's take a look.
For over 50 years, the MATC Times has prided itself on reporting stories that are relevant to the MATC community.
The motive of the MATC Times is to deliver news to students and faculty at MATC to make sure they know what's going on each bi-weekly whenever we have the issues, so that the students and faculty will know what's going on at each of the campuses. What we do to reach out to the community is basically reach out to the different organizations and groups that are on campus. And how we reach out to the community is through the groups and organizations. So if we can actually tell a story that benefits, let's say, the Latino organization, and by their giving back, we give back to the community by sharing their stories. As I work with the Times, I get acclimated with the city through the stories that we share, through the history of the college, through the professors.
Student writer Ashley Miner says that being a part of the Times has helped her in many ways.
I've been enjoying it. It's fun. I get to learn the inside scoop about a lot of things. And it's great teachers here, you know, that help me perfect my craft, so I enjoy it.
And it was actually great to actually, you know, write a story, you know, something other than something I need to be graded on. And it was great to do some investigative reporting. And the feedback that I got back from the Times, from my advisor at the time and the current editor, was more positive than something that I would get in a classroom traditionally. So I felt empowered with my writing. So I kind of was like, okay, I can do this.
It teaches me to meet deadlines. You know, I don't have all day, you know, to dilly-dally over this assignment. So, well, not assignment, this article, but it teaches me how to get to the point. Like with my stories, it helps me perfect my craft, like I said. So if I do pursue English, you know, this is experience that does not stay at MATC. It goes along with me wherever I go. So I'm appreciative of the experience.
According to Editor-in-Chief Jim Nance, the direction and future of the Times is up to the main readership, the student body.
I enjoy my job here. I hope my staff enjoy having me here. I like making sure that we meet our deadlines, we get the stories that we need to get done. I'm very organized, and I make sure that the Times integrity is intact. We would hope that the students and faculty think the Times is important to them, because our staff really puts their heart and their commitment to the Times, and they really go out and get the stories. They really go out to inform us on what's really going on, because not everything I know, and actually I get educated when they share their when they get the information back to us. And by me putting it together and my staff, we deliver it to the students and the faculty. So we would hope that they take pride in knowing that this newspaper, you know, delivers news that we think is important to them.
Thank you for watching Stormwatch. I'm your host, Joe Pfaff, leaving with a glimpse of the main building of MATC's downtown campus in the 20s and 30s.
There you are. It's me, Monty Driscoll, and welcome to another segment of MATC 100 Years. Last week I showed you 1912, and today we're going to take a trip to the Roaring 20s and explore MATC right through the Great Depression. After growing out of its Mason Street and Stroh building locations, city leaders authorized construction of a larger school at the corner of 6th and State Streets. The first section of the main building opened in 1920. Its completion and the consolidation of classes took 8 more years. The new school was called Milwaukee Vocational School. Its goal was to educate Milwaukee's child workforce after it became law that working children were required to attend school. The Milwaukee Vocational School offered training for dentistry, construction, nursing, infant care, firefighting, and much more. And even through the Great Depression, there was no tuition at Milwaukee Vocational School, absolutely zero tuition. And with an average semester today at MATC costing close to $2,000 a student, it makes you wonder what happened. Well, I guess those were the good old days. Until next time, I'm Monty Driscoll, and thanks so much for joining me on Stormwatch 100 Years of MATC.